Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far, with big rumours going around over the last few months as to what the future of the CDL itself is going to be. Some big announcements yesterday coming out of Overactive Media, the parent company over at the Toronto Ultra, acquiring some other esports brands from around the world. This has raised serious questions. Will the Ultra as a brand continue to exist into the future? And if it potentially doesn't, what does that mean for the contract of the players? This could also apply if the CDL was to come to an end as well, but there could be some seriously big free agents on the market in the very near future. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. First of all, quick update on the BPL side. Drazah, as you might well expect, is currently leading up the rankings here. He was kind of slamming over the last couple of days. The current standings look like this. So, kind of funny, I gotta say again that Awakening and, well, Vivid is up here, I guess, as well. Just because what we saw the first time around in the first BPL split, where some of the guys on the rocker were doing pretty well in 8s, and then that wasn't really translating, and there were some questions raised by certain pros as to, well, I think it was Kenny, right, who said that there's some players that are kind of built different in 8s, and then in real games it's not quite the same story. It's still early days in this BPL split. The money will be dished out based on the standings at the end of the month, but this is kind of how things are progressing so far. Also from Daniel Say, I mean, look, he doesn't do many tweets nowadays because I can't imagine there's much positivity for him to spread at the moment, and there's always a debate as to, you know, how much control he really has of what goes on. Sure, he's the general manager, like the commissioner of the league, but is he fighting an uphill battle against higher up decisions? It's always a question. But anyway, this is what he says. Happy New Year, everyone. Our team is getting back in the office and excited to resume matches next weekends. As we come out of the break, getting challenges in for ad remains our team's top priority. Wish I could provide a more definitive timeline, but it feels like we're just about at the finish line of getting the new platform in place, which is Face It, if you guys didn't know. Rest assured, this is being worked on daily, and thanks for the continued patience. So, like, I understand the frustrations from their side. I imagine that they were also kind of blindsided by the whole game battles shutting down thing, which is where they would typically run challenges. Although I think there's been rumors that the game battles shutdown was going to happen for like 6 months now. So if there are rumors about that happening, then the CDL guys should possibly have been aware. In which case, you would have thought they could have come up with a better solution by now. But, you know, it's the CDL we're talking about. Maybe we'll discuss some more problems that it has in a couple of seconds. Also wanted to mention for you guys this funny 1v1 that went down last night between Shifty TV. So he played a $500 pot. I think it was like $250. Maybe they played map 1. Then they played another Rust 1v1 between himself and Scrappy. So Scrappy loves a good chal. And Shifty, of course, he's the Warzone guy that said, oh, well, maybe I'll consider the CDL spot if the bag is right, is I think what he said after the fact. Apparently he's also going to try and compete at the Challengers event in Boston, which is going to be pretty exciting. So, you know, we know that these top Warzone guys have good gun skill, right? There's no doubt about it. And to be honest, 1v1s on shipments, not even sure they're necessarily the best test of gun skill anyway. You know, you're looking at the radar, you'll see where the red dot is. It's a bit cheesy. You know how it goes. So this is Scrappy playing against Shifty yesterday. Okay, he's down 9-15 in this spot, and he's talking, I think, to CleanX in his chat. And then you can actually see here, he puts the feet up on the desk and just keeps playing, which I thought was hilarious. So, yeah, Scrappy went down in this one. He then, I guess, got his revenge and probably won the second chal that they played on Rust. But Scrappy definitely not taking this one too seriously. This was the result of game 1. This was the result of game 2. You know, I'm not exactly sure whose host they played and all this type of stuff, but pretty funny. And at the end of the day, there's no denying that some of the top Warzone guys have, you know, they can shoot the weapon straight, but that's a different story to actually being good in a CDL context, which has been, well, a matter of massive debate over the last several months, I suppose. Now, we've got to talk about this whole Toronto Ultra future situation here, right? So Scrappy will be probably the key talking point around this discussion because he's, you know, in theory, should be the MVP caliber player on their team if there is going to be one, but of course it applies elsewhere as well, and also applies across other teams. Like if you're Pred, you've just signed, presumably, the mega bag with OpTic, and all of a sudden your contract gets voided because the CDL is over, then, you know, that's not exactly ideal, depending on what happens going forward, what the contracts look like next year. So it's a really interesting time for the Call of Duty League, and especially when we know that the Overwatch League is now basically dead, and even Overactive Media explain that in their kind of financials that we'll see here in just a couple of seconds. So This began the story yesterday when aBeZy here from Toronto said the following. This I thought was kind of wild. My friend Gerard PK came to visit me in Toronto in December. He is a big Toronto Ultra fan. And okay, it's not the best picture to be honest. They could have got like a selfie or something and it's kind of blurred. But you know, here's Gerard PK. So obviously, you know, Spanish former footballer known for dating like Shakira right for all those years. And this is, well, him wearing this. Well, I actually had to look it up. I was like, okay, are you sure this is the thing that he's wearing? But yeah, it is. This is their like limited edition. There seems to be not many of these left in various sizes. But anyway, this is what he's wearing quite clearly in this picture. And I was like, damn, that's kind of a crazy crossover. But why? Why is PK involved with Toronto? Exactly what's going on here? Turns out PK's also been somewhat involved in, well, some of the Spanish organizations over the last couple of years. And I believe that's where this whole alignment comes from. So Overactive Media, they own Toronto, effectively part of the Splice, not really part of Splice, but Splice, Overactive Media, Toronto. It was all kind of the same thing a few years ago. And now, as you might well expect from this whole esports winter landscape, there are being some mergers and acquisitions around the place. Lots of organizations can't stand on their own 2 feet. They need more support elsewhere. So it kind of makes sense that a few organizations are merging, coming together, especially ones that, you know, are competing across different esports. So therefore they can combine everything under one header. It's happened before. It's going to happen again. Definitely. And Overactive Media say the following. They execute a letter of intent to acquire both KOI, very interesting, and Movistar Riders to form a global esports powerhouse. Well, Movistar Riders, I'm pretty sure, did have a COD team as well back in the day. We're talking like pre-CDL, 2017, 2018, 2019. I'm pretty sure they fielded a roster. And then KOI is kind of this newer, let's say, personality led by aBeZy and those guys. What's happening there? Now, you might remember the KOI partnered with London Royal Ravens, right? That was a thing that they tried to execute, but that never really made that much sense to me. And the theory was that maybe Ravens are going to rebrand to be like, you know, a Spanish organization, Spanish team move to Madrid or something. That never happens. And KOI kind of, not exactly silently, but, you know, the partnership that they tried to form there was shortly thereafter dissolved, really, because Carolina, well, Ravens moved to Carolina, and now that's the kind of own thing again. So now KOI looking for other opportunities, it seems, and Overactive Media are looking to partner and basically buy both of them. So yeah, aBeZy goes on to explain this, embarking on this ambitious journey by announcing our intention to acquire both of these organizations, still in the early stages, but it's an exciting time, and these also bring us top-tier influencers such as aBeZy and Gerard PK, and you know, their global reach, their entrepreneurial spirit in sports and entertainment, you know, classic press release type stuff. They talk about why they're doing so, but it's very interesting, right? Because these are two Spanish organizations. He says that they want to win beyond the business side. Our commitment to this merger is driven by our desire to win. We want to win in our way, want to bring home championships, etc., etc. But you know, it's interesting that they span many different esports, these two respective teams, and as Ben J. Nassim therefore says, that now KOI is kind of back in the mix in the Call of Duty space, as they were with Ravens briefly, this time with OAM and Toronto effectively. And therefore, looking at the options potentially for Toronto going forwards, it definitely raises questions as to what that organization actually looks like and, well, how the situation will develop going forwards. Because, as Ben says, reading this press release now, very curious if Ultra will stay as a brand, if the CDL pivots, or even if the organization will stay in NA. Now, my feeling will be that they probably will. I mean, even as aBeZy says, PK, huge Ultra fan apparently, and I think the Ultra brand is fantastic, and I also think that they seem very much committed to being in Toronto. There's all the talk about this massive stadium they're trying to build, this like esports hub facility, but you know, there's obviously questions about whether that will be the direction they take in the next 5 years if they're now partnering with all these Spanish teams. Because as you can see, this is now going to be, well, this is the set of their assets going forwards. And as is described, a global rebranding effort to include input from fans and influencers will be undertaken in 2024 to unite all teams globally under a single brand by the end of the year. Now, I just think the Ultra brand in general is pretty cool. That's what I would personally prefer. But, you know, these are all their assets. This is their COD League team, Toronto Ultra. Overwatch Esports is basically dead. I mean, we'll see that in a second. And I think, to be fair to Overactive Media, of all the teams, they're kind of still looking for that next Overwatch step. But the league is disbanded. We'll see in a second. And then everything else is either it's like Atletico de Madrid, EAFC, which is like the FIFA team or whatever. And then you've got Mad Lions, KOI, Movistar KOI, which is how the other brands line up, right? Because Mad Lions is also in that kind of Splice Toronto Overactive Media portfolio. So it's all kind of complicated. But these are all of their assets assets now, and they will rebrand them somewhere over the next couple of years. And just to clarify on this final bit here, so just to quickly mention, the numbers you see here are expressed in thousands. So if you see 6,000, that actually means 6 million. But it's just a confirmation here that they were paid, or there's a termination payment with the Overwatch League for $6 million from Activision Blizzard, and the payment will be received net of approximately this amount by the league to Toronto Defiance for a net receipt payment, etc, etc. And yeah, basically the Overwatch League is over. So therefore the big question that Ben was raising was, okay, what does this mean for Toronto going forward? And also, you know, what if the CDL calls it a day or whatever the case might be? What does that mean for the way that Toronto set themselves up? Now, I think my general feeling is that, you know, the overactive picture, as Aslo describes, is definitely more aligned with staying in Toronto and being in Canada and Ultra being like the flagship product. That's how I see it. I wouldn't expect that to change, but of course it's definitely possible. And as JoeDeceives says, though, therefore, Scrappy is about to be the biggest free agent on the market this offseason, I would guess, if this is potentially the case. Now, to be honest, this could apply to basically any player if the CDL was to do what the Overwatch League has done and say, all right, guys, we'll pay you to go away, and we will now just, you know, step back and let Esports Engine or let FaZe or let ESL or whatever run the show from like a third-party perspective, kind of like how it worked in Halo, which is possibly what we might expect to happen. I think that definitely happens in the next 2 years. Whether it happens in the next 8 months, that I guess is the question. Because I'm sure many of you remember when the CDL initially formed and the CWL was over, all of the contracts, all of those teams were basically useless, they didn't mean anything anymore, and everything was brand new. And it'd be the same case again, right? I mean, look, if these organizations effectively cease to exist in some way, or they pivot and they change and Ultra is rebranded and therefore the contracts are no longer valid in some way, then all of a sudden a load of players become free agents. So this is maybe, given this news, more likely for Toronto and therefore for Scrap than for other teams potentially, but it also doesn't mean that it won't happen to other teams as well. I think there's definitely a realistic possibility that the next, well, the big rostermania that comes post-CDL, as I would see it, is going to be wild. That might happen at the same time that Scrap is also free agent. That might happen sooner, depending on this 2024 plan that Overactive Media have for all of these assets they now own. Now, of course, some would hope that they actually do merge with European names, European brands, and bring the European scene back into the CDL somehow, because to be fair, Toronto, you know, they've featured many European players over the year. Even currently, they have Insight over there, they have CleanX over there, they've had Cammy, they've had Bance in very recent years. They also did sign those Spanish guys, such as Lucky, right when the CDL first started, that's now, of course, playing for Miami Heretics. So there's lots of potential history there, but Beans reckons that, yeah, it's probably not going to be happening. So very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section. Well, I guess just out of interest, if Scrappy was to be a complete free agent, no buyout fee, nothing like that, what team would be interested in, well, potentially Scrappy going to, right? Pretty sure that Ben talked about this in the off-season, right? The possibility of like, okay, could FaZe Scrappy be a thing? Let's not forget that when Toronto, we thought they were making roster changes this off-season, which of course they did this most recent off-season when Hixie was gone, of course, another example of a, you know, UK player that they had on their organization. And of course they brought in Envoy, right, to as his replacement. There was talk though that Scrappy wanted out of there, they were holding him hostage and all this stuff, and if that was to be the case, he was of course linked to, you know, OpTic, to FaZe, these other teams. If he was to be a complete free agent and one of those teams wanted to try and find an upgrade, then, well, I don't think you could entirely rule it out. But very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
Hummy. That data for you?
1 minute remaining.
Oh yeah.
The round is lost. Focus on the next one.
That's my nade right there. Oh my god.
Enemy level the objective.
Oh my god, there's just no way. No, don't do it. Don't do it. Please don't do it, bro. It's 3-4. Look, you have... I won't let you. I won't let you do it. I won't let you do it. No, please.